Hello and welcome to another Offseason Outlook episode of the Father and Son Pastime Podcast. I'm Patrick.
I'm Kevin. How are you?
That's my dad. Dad, we've done the AL. We're moving on to the NL, the National League. We're going to start with the East. This is your first video of the Offseason Outlook with us. I kind of cover the losses that each team has, endured or suffered since the World Series. And kind of my dad will address some of their needs. We may talk some trade candidates as well. But I'm going to kick it off with Atlanta, Dad. First round exit, despite a very good season.
Yeah.
They've traded a lot of people, and I kind of am including that in my losses list because right now they have a lot of subtractions.
Five for one.
They're working on their additions, but there's more subtractions than additions so far.
I think they cleared roster space, to be quite honest.
They have only 30 people in their 40-man roster right now, so they're going to add.
Yep.
Nick Anderson, gone, traded. Kyle Wright, gone, traded. Mike Soroka, gone, traded. Nicky Lopez, gone, traded. Jared Schuster, gone, traded. That's just 5 names. Charlie Culberson, he's been DFA'd, called back up, released. He's gone. Colin McHugh, good reliever. Not a great year, but good reliever. Eddie Rosario, a nice little, former World Series hero there. Kirby Yates, Brad Hand, and Kevin Pillar are all out of the Braves organization. I'm sure there'll be some reunions knowing the Braves, but for now, that's the losses. Obviously, they have added Ronaldo Lopez as a reliever starter in that role as well. But, Dad, take us through their needs.
Clearly, they need some bench players.
They need bench. You're absolutely
and I think
right.
they need relief pitching.
They got Bummer. I'm so sorry. Bummer and Lopez were added.
Correct. And both were, key pieces. I think they're both left-handed, if I'm not mistaken. But, that was great. It seems like they had just an offensive juggernaut this year. Really a good lineup, 1 through 9. I think towards the end, pitching kind of came to, bite them a little bit. I just think it's a solid team with a solid minor league system. I just think they need to add little pieces. They may do a trade or two, but right now, that's a strong team.
Bummer is left, but Ronaldo is right. I think they're still going to add pitching. They're linked to so many pitchers, including Shohei, Yamamoto, Gray. My joke is Jack Flaherty's a great backup. I think they need a left fielder. That could be obviously just re-signing Eddie Rosario. It could be getting one of the many, corner outfielders on the market or trading for something. Clearly, Alex Anthopoulos does not hold back when it comes to flipping trades. They could be in the Tyler Glasnow market, but I don't see any of their current, or at least any more, of their current roster, MLB roster, traded for any talent.
Yeah, they're all locked up. The stars, they do a really good job of locking up their stars for a while. When I saw them play the Cubs this year towards the end of the year, I couldn't believe how strong they were 1 through 9. You can't find a hole, from 6, 8, 9, they're all strong hitters. I just think it's the team to beat in the East, and they'll just keep getting better with little pieces, and that's the Atlanta way. They're strong.
I will say one thing. I guess Travis d'Arnaud could be moved as a backup catcher after Sean Murphy's phenomenal year.
Yeah, that'd be a good trade piece.
They can pick up someone that's cheaper if they had to save some money and move him for some piece. Charlie Morton will be in his last year. I think he'll obviously retire after this. So another reason to get some a long-term pitcher. Don't look for any signing that Atlanta does or acquisition to be just for 2024 in my opinion. I guess Glasnow I think could be the exemption there.
And they have enough players in their system. They could make a trade for a blockbuster and not really hurt the major league team. So
those hurt the minor league teams.
Yeah, I think
Mississippi Braves go 32-90.
Good looking hat.
Yeah.
But I just think they're I don't think anyone's going to catch them next year. I think they're probably the odds on to win the East and to be up there in the playoffs and everything.
They'll win the East.
Yeah. Yeah, because the Phillies don't want it.
Phillies don't care about winning the East. We know that. I wonder if they're my next team that I want to talk about. They certainly can be. Let's talk. Sure. Let's talk Phillies.
Unique team.
Defense is awful. One of the lowest, including Trey Turner, who had just a bad postseason.
And routine plays.
I don't know. Obviously, Kyle Schwarber's going to DH forever, hopefully. But Bryce Harper being their first baseman of the future, it felt a little early. I think they could have put him back in the outfield and got a first baseman.
There's been some quality first baseman out there.
He'll learn first base. I don't know how stud defensively Bryce will be as a first baseman.
He's adequate.
That's a pretty good definition of most of their defenders. Adequate or subpar.
You know their biggest need is?
Right, I would say bullpen, either figuring out...
Leadoff hitter.
I always think Trey Turner should be the leadoff hitter.
Yeah, I don't know why he bats second or third, but Schwarber as leadoff, I've never understood that. I know he gets a lot of walks, but he strikes out a ton. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't hit a whole lot of singles. Yeah. It's a home run derby.
Phillies didn't lose that much in the offseason. Obviously, re-signing Nola, that would have been the main thing I was going to say.
Great contract, 7 years.
They re-signed him. Kimbrel and Fleming from their bullpen. Phillies aren't going to miss those guys. Hoskins is a sad departure, but he was gone all year. Michael Lorenzen, midseason acquisition. Cool, you threw a no-hitter. And then Scott Kingery, who was supposed to be this, lauded prospect once upon a time.
Yeah.
Never amounted to anything. So really, they could use some help in center. Sorry, I'll let you do the needs. I just know Phillies.
I'm with you. They could use a stronger outfield. There's rumors they may trade a couple of their outfielders, especially when
Castellanos.
Castellanos didn't have a great playoff system. They're a little down on him right now, but during the year he was clutch, and I think he batted 7th, which is phenomenal for that lineup. Harper at first base, I agree. He'll go through spring training at first base and first time this coming spring. That may help and all that stuff. But I think they need some bench pieces, and I think they always could use another reliever or two, even though their relief is much better than it once was.
Obviously, there's a lot of talks, and I don't know how serious they'll get, but Mike Trout to the Phillies has always been this thought.
What a fit.
It could certainly be a fit. I don't know if, again, my joke earlier was if you throw Rendon and you have to give up less, just pay more. Philly would be the one team, in my opinion, to be willing to do that. Maybe the Yankees are two, because they don't mind taking on Josh Donaldson's contract, so why not,
Yeah.
It seems very unlikely, I will say that, Phillies fans, to get Trout. I think if there is a trade for, to get a center fielder, if you're not going to get a Bellinger, you could get Kiermaier. It's a lot of personalities if you add Kiermaier. Speaking of personalities, Taijuan Walker was very upset that he did not get a single inning in the postseason.
Yes, he's bitter.
And said stuff about it. So if they look to trade him, and they would want center field depth, there's not that many people willing to trade established center fielders for Walker. And Walker's a pretty good pitcher. You would be looking at the options of a Lane Thomas, and he's more of a right fielder, center fielder in DC, but I think DC, the Nats would do that. I think the Padres would be willing to move Trent Grisham for Walker if the Phillies paid majority of Walker's contract.
Just think of Bellinger in Philadelphia.
I think if you are the Cardinals, you listen to a Carlson for a Walker trade.
Yeah.
There's no perfect matches in my opinion. Someone threw out the idea of Mike Yastrzemski out of San Francisco getting. I think he's from the East Coast. I know he came up with the Orioles. So
correct. I'm not sure. I thought he might be a West Coast guy that came here and then was raised in the Baltimore organization. But all during the playoffs, the people in the media said the Phillies love their defensive center fielder, and he saved so many games.
Rojas, I just don't.
And they hit him at the 9th spot, but they say that defensively he was a godsend.
I figured Yastrzemski was from Massachusetts because of his grandfather, but yeah. Mike Yastrzemski is from Andover, Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
So he's East Coast.
Okay.
He went to Vanderbilt. So yeah.
He's smart.
Definitely East. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's certainly a possibility of he's not a free agent until 2026. I mean, the Phillies could build around that. Giants could take Walker. I don't know. It just seems.
And there's some center fielders out there that could help him offensively too.
I think.
Bader.
Yeah, you're right. Bader could be there. I think both of those trades are unlikely. I think they'll sign and just have a high payroll. Not that many needs, though. Again, Braves, Phillies don't have to do much to just go right on.
How's that again? But you know, I have to say this: the Phillies fans are into baseball. You know, the games that you saw at you know the old Vet, which is now another stadium.
CBP.
So, yeah, I mean they were really into the games. They have a good fan base. East Coast team, one of the few East Coast teams that were in the playoffs. I just think they're very good, and unfortunately, the Atlanta's in the same division. But again, when it comes playoff time, they kick it up a notch.
Yeah, they just play for the playoffs. Miami Dad is our next team. They obviously did make the playoffs. Good for them. Kind of like the 2020 season. It's like, oh, Miami made the playoffs.
Manager of the year?
Skip Schumacher did.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't he sound like a manager? His name's Skip.
Yes, right.
Like, I mean,
Hey, Skip, how you doing? It covers everybody.
Deserves to be a manager.
Yeah.
He managed, the Marlins that were not a stable organization due to Jeter leaving, Mattingly leaving. And now Kim is left.
Correct. There's some problems there.
So choosing a path for Miami this offseason is a little difficult. Let's go over what they've lost. They lost 2 catchers. Jacob Stallings was primarily one of their starters last year. Jorge Alfaro, who was a big prospect with San Diego but never found his footing. Jorge Soler, if they don't re-sign him. Yuli Gurriel, probably now retired. David Robertson, probably not retired. Matt Barnes, Johnny Cueto, Matt Moore, Joey Wendell. Big Joey Wendell, not having a great season.
Yeah.
Archie Bradley, Gene Segura, and Garrett Hampson. They lost a lot for
a
Marlins team. Yeah. Obviously, they have one of the best hitters in baseball with Luis Ariz. If they had a full year of Jad Chisholm, they'll be better. And they actually traded for Jake Berger mid-year. Didn't understand that move by the White Sox, but they certainly won that trade, and they have a ton of pitching, so they will get calls on their trades. Dad, what do they need? What should they be looking for in those trades?
Outfielders and relief pitchers, just to get some depth.
Okay.
Because of the losses, to fill up the losses, and they didn't have a whole lot of power last year either. By the way, that's why they trade for Berger. But relief pitching, I think they lose a ton.
They lost a couple.
Yeah. Setup guys mainly. And I think, for the most part, top of the lineup has speed and, get on base. So they played small ball pretty well. And they had, stellar starting pitching. You worry about their main guy that hurt himself at the very end. Alcantara?
He's out for the year.
Okay. Well, then that's a hole they're going to have to fill as well.
Let me go through
Tommy John?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me go through their... They have 7 starters, and this is not including Sixto Sanchez. Remember him from a couple years ago?
Yeah.
He's out of options, so he has to be either traded or added to the roster. So if not adding Sixto Sanchez, Yuri Perez, that tall flamethrower that was on an innings limit last year.
Okay.
Jesus Luzardo, who was their number 2.
Okay.
Also in the COVID year, that Trevor Rogers. I think his name was Trevor Rogers.
Yeah.
Braxton Garrett, Ryan Weathers, Edward Cabrera, and Max Meyer, who's one of the big prospects in baseball.
Yeah.
They're going to move, a lot of people think Rogers or Braxton Garrett.
Okay.
So they have, even without Alcantara, they have
a good rotation.
Depth.
Yeah.
So they could trade 1 or 2 of those players, and they have more. I mean, like I said, Sixto Sanchez is in this list too.
Yeah.
Where they could get, if you think they're not strong in corner outfield, which I agree, I think they could easily resign some of these people. Yeah. But I think getting a rise to a DH is a goal.
Okay.
So, like I said, we both thought that a Metrosar or Tim Anderson could be beneficial for them up the middle. They, I think, need to focus on that. If they don't get those people, they got to trade a pitcher for a middle infielder that's talented and can play the whole year.
I think they need especially Soler leaves, they need a little power.
Oh, I agree, but yeah. I think I'm banking on Soler coming back.
Yeah, and if they improve and everything, they're right up there battling the Phillies for second place.
I don't think they'll battle the Phillies for second place. I think the Phillies will continue to improve, and the Marlins will not super improve because again, we're talking about trading pitching.
Okay.
And there'll be a full year without Alcantara. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but if they want, that's why I don't know these direction. They could,
especially that GM.
Right. So,
and I think it was a philosophical difference between the GM and the ownership. So there was a philosophical difference when Jeter was there too. So some ownership and everything dictating what's going on. The GMs are leaving too frequently. So there's an issue there.
Those are the 3 playoff teams. Let's talk about the biggest disappointment in baseball last year with the New York Mets. I think that's a fair statement. It's that or the Padres. But I think it's the Mets.
I think the Mets are, because they spent all that money, are the biggest disappointment.
Because they traded so much during the year, Dad. They didn't lose that much in free agency. They really didn't. Yeah. They lost Dan Vogelback. They non-tendered him.
And that's not a big loss.
Adam Ottavino, good pitcher though.
Yeah.
Carlos Carrasco, kind of older. And then just a stolen base start of Tim Locastro, or Tilo, as he goes by. Needs, Dad. Tell me the needs of Stephen Cohen and company.
Starting pitching, relief pitching, third base, first base, outfield.
Why first base?
I just think apparently, your friend, the polar bear, is up for getting traded. So apparently he's on the block. So we'll see. I mean, if he goes on a trade, then they got to replace him.
Do you think he gets traded?
I think he does. Because he wants out of New York.
To who?
The Cubbies were there. Apparently the Cubs put a deal together at the deadline. Got turned down at the last minute by the Mets. But apparently
So you also had Hoskins going to the
right.
Cubs.
But I'm just saying, if this trade doesn't happen, then they got to go free agent. But he wants out of New York, and I think New York doesn't want him around. He's gone after this year, by the way.
I have Pete Alonso the polar bear, going to the Windy City. I think it works out so well. I think that's what I was saying earlier, like that defense, you can have Pete at first base. It's okay. I think he'll try again. I think he'll care, and he'll really hit more home runs.
Oh, my God. And Wrigley? Oh, my God.
He's 50 home run guy.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? Even he hits it in the alleys, it's gone.
Yeah.
He's
got a power swing. I think he's gone. I try to put together a package. Morel seems to be what is Cohen's after.
Yeah. And what a trick.
And Stearns. But you would have to add more.
I'm thinking it's a 3-for-1, and the Cubs are going to give up 2 of their big-time prospects.
Take Brennan Davis. Take Brennan Davis. Take Brennan Davis.
He's so out of the picture now.
Throw in.
But the joke is they go PCA for the polar bear.
That's a dumb trade.
I know that, but people in New York, that's what they're saying. Hey, we're so pissed off that they got rid of PCA. We can get them back now. And it's not going to happen. No. But I think in Chicago, man, that takes him to a whole another level. Him batting cleanup. My Lord.
That's why I think the Cubs are my favorite for the Central.
Yeah, over 100 RBIs easily. And with that infield that they have, all he's got to do is just play catch. He doesn't have to be a great defensive first baseman. He just got to catch the throws.
Well, Dansby Swanson will throw it to you. I mean, you're going to get it.
I know. I know. I mean, you're not going to scoop him out of dirt.
Yeah.
So that'd be a terrific trade
if
they do it.
I don't know if they could afford him and Chapman and like all these and Snell, but you got to draw the line somewhere.
I think that right now just got open book.
I do think the Mets trade again at the deadline, whatever they can in the offseason. I think it's just Alonso, but then they trade like a Quintana, maybe a Nimmo or Marte if they can with those contracts in the offseason or in the summer. They pick up basically anyone that's going to do that as 1 year, the 1 year in the option. Go back to our top 50 free agents for some ideas there. But I don't see a lot of multi-year deals unless it's in like the Asian market where they can kind of secure like Senga. I think it's a lot of, again, we'll try to form a competitive team. We'll win some games. We'll lose some games. We'll sell at the deadline. And then 2025, we'll have all these rookies that we can trade or money to go get people.
When they were going through the bad times this year, the owner was coming out, we're going to build for the future, and we're building for 25. So when he made those statements publicly, people were going, whoa, what happened to this instant, winner that's going to go to the World Series? And now you're talking about 25? So a lot of people were put off by that talk, too.
Mm-hmm. Mets in the playoffs, not in the playoffs next year?
No.
Same. Let's talk about the Nats, Dad.
I think
exceeded expectations this year.
Correct. I think they're on their way up. They got one of the best farm systems in baseball right now.
Yes, they do.
From all the trades.
Yes, they do. They're not going to be competitive 2024, as in like a playoff team. That's what I mean by competitive when I say that. They only lost, by the end of the year, Dominic Smith, Corey Dickerson, and C.J. Edwards. Dom Smith was a replaceable first baseman. Corey Dickerson was a negative outfielder. C.J. Edwards had some trade value at some points, but again, none of these guys are major losses.
They thought the Nationals would get over 100 losses, and they didn't.
Yeah, so did I.
They played okay. They're building for the future. They got a bunch of stars in Double-A. that will go AAA 2025. They got an exciting young team.
A lot of stuff has to click for those. I know the outfielders and pitchers that my dad's alluding to. Abrams had a pretty good year. Ruiz had a solid year. Gray was a great pitcher. Ended up kind of being their ace, pseudo ace. I mean, again, the 4-something is your ace, whatever. 4-something ERA. I don't think they'll be competitive. But go ahead.
They have no relief pitching. They got
Finnegan, and that's kind of it. Yeah,
they got smoked in the games that we went to there. Their starters used to go 3 innings, and bullpen came in, and then boom, it got to be a 9 to 15 run explosion from the opposing team. Their relief pitching was just abominable. I think they could probably look for a third baseman along the way, a first baseman. They just need everything, but relief pitching to me stands out as just they need all new candidates for the bullpen.
I have 1-year contracts likely or stopgaps before these, talented minor leaguers come up. I said maybe you can finally trade Carter Kaboom if he has any value as a third baseman somewhere.
He's going to blow up somewhere.
Ha 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 ha. But just be prepared for deadline trades. Like I said, do the Gio Urshela thing at third base, just like a Jamer. And just 1 year, I said Lucas Giolito, like those type of people that are willing to take a bounce back and then flip them. You're going to really have a great farm system if you do that. And I think that's the game the Nats will play next year. I still think dead last.
Tough division.
It is a tough division. You're going to have 2 100% competitive teams and then 2 teams that will tell their fans are being competitive. I don't know how in play or how serious the Marlins and Mets will be at trying to be above 500. The Nats could surprise us like the Reds or the Pirates, but I really think the Reds and the Pirates did so well this year because they were in the NL Central and the Cardinals blew up.
The Nationals will reap the benefits of the Soto trade. A lot of those guys would. A couple of the outfielders will come up in 18 months. They're the future. That guy Wood is 6'7" power hitter that plays center or right field. He's one of those stars of the future.
Bye, Robles.
So I'm thinking, 2 years from now, they might be a fun team to watch.
Sure, totally. That concludes for the NL Central. Sounds like too
East.
competitive. Sorry, NL East. We're about to get to the NL Central. We've done 6 podcasts today, people. East, again, definitely sound like a basement team of the Nats. Marlins and Mets might fight for 3rd or 4th place, and Braves and Phillies will be at the top of the division. But it'll be fun to watch. I don't see as many trades in this division.
Mets below or above 500?
Below. Besides Pete Alonso, I don't see really any major trades happening in this division. Any pieces moving out to you, Dad?
They don't have a whole lot of talent. Talent they have is so locked up, no one wants the contract.
Depends how you view Marlins pitching, if they're high end to you or not, but I don't think they'll be... I just don't think they'll be like it'll be more like who did the Marlins get for their pitching, not oh my god, did you see that Trevor Rogers went to Minnesota? Like it'll be like who did
that'd be a good trade for Minnesota.
Sure, they've lined up before Luis Ariz and Pablo Lopez.
Yeah.
But all right, we're gonna move on to the NL Central. Thank you for watching. You've watched 24 minutes of this, so subscribe to our channel, and then all of our social media information is in the description below. So thank you. On to the next one.